Disc Golf Podcast, average podcast for the average disc golfer. As always, I'm Evan Amstutz here with actually Dan Hesser this week. We're happy you could join us. Dan, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty well. Just getting ready for the holidays.
Yeah, no, that's just got back from playing myself. Went played some New World this afternoon.
Nice.
Hatchers and KP and Matt and stuff. That was fun. Good
Yeah,
times.
good times.
Yeah. So what over holidays, you said you're not playing right now, but do you ever go get like a family round in or anything like that?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Just kind of depends on what we got going on and weather and all that good stuff. So just try to enjoy time with family. I don't really prioritize disc golf over the holiday season. I think I've played 3 rounds in the past few weeks just due to being busy.
Yeah, man, it's definitely a busy time. There's a lot going on, and uh, it's crazy, but it's always it's always fun to find some time and get those casual runs in with family and stuff. It kind of rekindles your love for the game in a lot of aspects. Just what it's meant to be is hanging out with a group of buddies or hanging out with family or whatever, and just throwing plastic in a public park is.
You mean it's
you
not supposed to be
know,
taken seriously at all times, no matter what?
I mean, sometimes you can play like that if it makes you happy. It's whatever you want to do.
Exactly.
Well, kind of a short intro here, but really excited to kind of complete the second half of an interview with Fish. If you guys have enjoyed the first half, you're really in for a treat. And yeah,
And before we get to that, this month we're going to be doing a giveaway with the disc shop. We're giving
yeah,
away a Halo T-Bird with a holiday stamp. So be on the lookout for that post.
you can find it on Instagram. Is where we'll be doing most of our giveaways. So I would head over there, make sure that you're following us if you're not, and yeah, be on the lookout. Should be coming soon.
Yeah. Happy holidays, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the Andrew Fish interview. This week's episode is brought to you by The Disc Shop. One of the best days for a disc golfer is New Disc Day. With different runs of discs, the best way to get exactly what you want is by seeing what you're buying. The Disc Shop in Middleburg, Florida has the largest selection in-store in Jacksonville. Want the latest from Discmania? The Disc Shop has you covered. Looking for starter kits to introduce your friends? Head on down to the Disc Shop. If you prefer the convenience of online shopping, head over to thediscshop.com for all your disc golf needs. Listeners get 10% off when using the code MDGPOD at checkout online or by mentioning the podcast while in store. Located halfway between Trinity and Ronnie Van Zant, the Disc Shop is the spot. To kind of take it in a different direction, but still on kind of the growth of the sport and professionalism, you've been pretty avid on Twitter about the expectations for players to be as available to people from a media perspective, like doing post-round interviews and that sort of thing as soon as they walk off the course. What is a way that can be improved while still giving the spectators kind of that accessibility? Because that's something that's been rooted in disc golf.
I feel like I may need to clarify your preamble a little bit.
Okay.
My premise in talking about that on Twitter a few weeks ago, and this is probably in November 2022, if folks want to scroll back a little ways. There was an ongoing discussion about what is appropriate for media to ask players after or during or after a round, and should media get to have the first congratulations, or should a player's family be able to? So there was something that stuck out to me about, like, on-course interviews, and I came at it from the perspective of a very introverted player. Um, for context, during my rounds, I really don't I don't deliberately interact with a lot of people. Um, I want to talk to the folks on my card. I want to talk to um, my caddy if I have one. I'll talk a little bit to the scorekeeper, and I might, if I like know the other players' caddies or people following them, I might talk to them a little bit. But my goal is to keep my circle like really small because that's the best way for me to focus as a player. And that may not be true for somebody like Big Germ, who's gregarious. He gets a lot of energy from the crowd. He wants to have that conversation walking down the fairway with somebody, wearing a silly shirt. Um, so there's kind of this like awkward um, ambiguity between we as players all need media and spectators to succeed. Like those are the people who we are depending on to help promote our brands. We're all appreciative of folks who come out to tournaments and watch and cheer and get autographs. Like I'm thrilled to do that. But I think there also needs to be a reasonable expectation from media and spectators that we are going to watch these players play at their peak. So I think there needs to be some respect paid to what helps those players play at their peak.
Mhm.
Um, and we're a developing sport where the media obligations are kind of whatever you want to make it. If you get invited to be at a GGPT press conference, odds are you show up. If you're asked to do a podcast interview, um, you know, you might do it if it fits in with your schedule. Um, and I'm sure that the players like Rick, like Paul, like Paige Pierce, who get asked a lot to do appearances, they probably have to pick and choose a little bit. Um, but we only have so much. Like this is true for everybody. We only have a limited amount of like emotional space and time availability to give to certain things. And if we as professional disc golfers are wanting to perform at our best, and that's what folks want to see out of us, then I think it's important to establish like what those boundaries are for that process. So all that to say, like, I am totally happy to talk to the media or talk to spectators after my round is over, but like the hour before, the entire time during, and then a couple minutes after, like certainly as we're adding up scores, like that's my time. I and I think that players should have their own agency on who they engage with during their time.
Does that happen often? Like in your experience as a touring pro, do you have people just walk up to you in the middle of a round and try to have a conversation with you? Like I couldn't imagine.
um, no, no. I mean, it's not like I get hecklers or something. Um,
But even
but
like somebody coming to sign, like, will you sign my disc in the middle of your round? Does that like is
not
that?
no. I think by now most people who are at big events have figured out like during the round you don't get stuff signed. But there is some crosstalk between like spectators and players, and like guarantee you that the more popular a player is, if you're Simon, if you're Rick, if you're Paige, like you're going to hear a lot more than I do, than Jordan Castro does, than Zach. Like, so it's kind of like the more famous you get, the more things you have to deal with during your round,
Yeah.
or immediately after. Um, the, and I'm not intending to make a value judgment on this, but like there are some players who are really well equipped to handle that, and there are players whose processes are much more like deliberate and self-focused. And I fit into that second category. And like there's definitely potential for someone to feel like I didn't make eye contact with them. I'm a bad person. Not I didn't make eye contact with them because like like all these people around, like
Yeah,
I need to keep my focus right here, right on me.
yeah,
Otherwise, I'm going to lose my mind.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I get that.
it was interesting again coming from a ball golf background, growing up going to ball golf professional tournaments of like seeing that versus the gallery at the Chain Hawk Open. There were a lot more people talking like while people were throwing than I was kind of comfortable with because
Yeah,
like
at Chain Hawk.
yeah, I come from the everybody shuts up, the players are talking about what shot they're doing. They're talking with their caddy, and at that point you stop talking, you let them go to work, and then during the round you don't ask them to sign anything. If you're bold, you
Right.
ask for a high five, and that's about it. But that doesn't seem to have translated to disc golf yet.
No, I think that's part of a developing sport. I suspect that as DGPT figures out a little bit more about what their crowd control process is, and as they have their operations staff more equipped, more uh, capable of dealing with things like that, I wouldn't be surprised if there's kind of a cultural shift in how crowds are expected to act. And it might take a few years for that to proliferate, you know, away to say A tier events rather than DGPT and major events. But we might head towards that ball golf thing. I don't think we like I don't think we have to head quite towards like perfect silence, but like at the Chain Hawk Open, I was trying to make a comeback putt and there was a guy clipping his nails about 50 feet away. And like that snap, snap, snap. I could hear it plain as day, man. And uh I looked over and he looked at me and I think he went back to doing it after. But it was just a very disorienting thing. And let's see. So it's kind of like there's this like middle ground of number of people doing things or number of people spectating that's unpleasant. Like if there's 100 people and 5 are doing something weird when you're trying to throw, whether that's like shuffling around or whispering, like you kind of hear those 5 distinctly. But if
Yeah,
there's 1,000, then that means that like okay, 5% of that is 50 people doing something. All of that noise just kind of like blends together and it doesn't matter
yeah,
anymore.
yeah. That makes sense.
Like people trying to distract someone at a free throw line in a basketball game. If everybody's doing it behind, it
Yep.
doesn't really do anything. But if one
Yeah.
person's waving something, it really stands out.
Yeah.
Similar to that.
Yeah. I think so.
Well, Evan, I think did you have some like a list of questions that people sent in, or
Yes, yes. And Fish got through quite a few of my questions, so this is very good.
All right.
Um, so was the ace spit out at New World one of your worst of your career?
Um, one of one of the worst ace spit outs. I don't feel like I've had that many. Certainly not in tournament play.
Mhm.
Um, it was like a little bit left to center and coming in so hot because of the crosswind. Like it was definitely in bounds. It was well thrown, but I didn't get the sense that it was going to stick, even though I did say do it about 40 feet out of my hand. You know, it is what it is. Like it's it might be the worst. It might not be the worst. It certainly is the freshest.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and going, oh wow, because it barely snuck out of there,
Yeah.
which probably makes it worse watching it on the internet than actually being there and feeling the wind and understanding that a hurricane just rolled through. So, do you pick Twitter as like your go-to platform for any particular reason?
Um, no, not really. I sorry, composing thoughts here. I feel like in order to accept a platform, you have to understand what the platform is doing and optimize how to use it. So, for example, like Facebook is ubiquitous. I was on that from 2007 or 8 through college until about 2013 or 14. But when there came a point when Facebook was trying to do everything for everyone. It was groups, it was marketplace, it was individual pages, it was event pages. It became like way too demanding to try to keep on top of everything. So I quit Facebook in 2013 or 14 and haven't looked back. I still don't really understand what the point of Instagram is to like put lo-fi pictures and like I really hate how many doggone ads are on there. Like
It's getting
that's
bad.
that yeah, that's the thing that's worst about Instagram to me is that like I really can't just look at stuff in chronological order. Which is what I want to do. Like I don't maintain a if I wasn't a professional disc golfer, I wouldn't have Twitter and I wouldn't have Instagram and I would be probably happier for it. um
Yeah,
so
that's
like
fair.
other platforms, TikTok, I don't know what TikTok is. I know I sound like somebody a generation older than me, but like is it just Chinese data mining? Is it people like doing dances and then like everyone doing that dance? Like I don't understand how I'm supposed to like promote stuff if it's not going viral or something. Um
I think that's a fair all-around assessment of TikTok, at least in my understanding.
yeah, I, I'm not trying to make like sincere value judgments on this stuff. It's just like I don't understand it. I don't feel like it's worth my time because like okay, Vine disintegrated. MySpace isn't even a thing. Like if I give it 2 years, will TikTok exist? I'm astonished that Twitter has lasted as long as it has. Like I've been on there nearly 15 years. So I think in that sense, like it's a familiar environment for me. I feel like it does reasonably well with the things that I like doing. Like I can post photos, I can post videos, I can have conversations with people that are like reasonably well threaded. Um, I can follow it chronologically. I don't understand the people who use like the home screen that shows suggested stuff or whatever. Like I just want to see things in the order that they were posted and um like I'm sounding like a total luddite here, I guess, but um like I feel like there's an order to Twitter
Mhm.
that other platforms lack, which may
Okay,
be why I'm most comfortable with it.
that's fair.
That said, there appears to be like something I've started to observe about the growth of disc golf is that there will be like celebrities slash personalities within disc golf that have popped up on some platform and I've never heard of them and they have, 30,000 followers or something because they made memes for a while. Um, and I just won't know who they are.
PDJ Rodman.
And I'm sorry.
PDGA Rodman. Is that who you're talking about?
No, no, no. Like, I, I don't feel like it's worthwhile to call anybody out, but like, I'll just be having conversation with someone at a tournament, and they'll like name drop someone by first name, and it's like, wait, who is that? It's like first name, last name. Like, okay, that still doesn't help me. It's like he's been all over Instagram. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's almost like we've hit a critical mass in disc golf where the social media is as big as the sport itself.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
consequently, like, it's almost like you can keep up in one but not the other. Um, and I've been uh, not cynical, um, but I feel like I've kind of just been disinterested in trying to play the social media influencer game,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because in order to do that, like, it's time consuming. You're
Yes, it
essentially
is.
trying to cultivate a very you're cultivating a persona. And um, I'm content to log on a couple times a day and scroll through the tweets that interest me, and then leave, and not do the I'm gonna like everyone who or I'm gonna follow everyone who liked my post, because then that's just cluttering up the feed that
Mhm.
Yeah.
of things that actually interest me. Um, and the same is true on Instagram. Like, the influencer playbook says that you should like every comment that gets posted on yours, and you should follow every account that follows you, and then you can just unfollow them later. It's fine. Um, I I don't care for that, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I think those are very good, well thought out reasons.
I don't. I I can tell you, I haven't put a whole lot more thought into it than I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do
Yeah, that's also a
That's
good
simple
reason.
enough.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire ones.
Yeah,
Describe
shoot.
describe Zach Melton in 3 words.
Yeah, his hair's off the table
Um,
now, isn't it? Jeez.
yeah, that's true. Zach Melton in 3 words. Little too much.
Nice.
What's been your worst grocery store experience in the past year?
Ooh, Aldi in Kansas City. I don't understand what Aldi is doing. Like, their entire thing is cheap groceries, but it's all stupid low quality stuff. Like, do not try to sell me lunch meat that has like 45% gelatin and water in it. I don't care about brand name stuff, but like, you need to have organized shelves. You need to have bread that's not just white bread and wheat bread. Um, you're If Aldi's entire thing is cheap groceries, do better. Like, go get real food.
That's right, Aldi. Pay attention.
I'm sure they're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I'm calling you out, Aldi corporate. The crossover hit into disc golf that nobody needed.
Maybe that's what the title's gonna be. It's just for the clicks.
Oh God.
What was your first disc? And if you could bag any disc with no sponsor restrictions, what would it be?
I had a blue DX Shark. I aced with it in Washington State. Um, let's see if I could throw any. I haven't broached this with Discraft, but I think it would be really funny to get a one-off Stego sponsorship, and like once or twice a month, like barely even use it in tournaments, I'm sure, because like who can trust? Obviously, it's gonna fade, but like, am I actually gonna get it there? Can I throw it 100 feet? It would be funny to just like post a video twice a month of me throwing it as hard as I can and then laughing as it goes nowhere.
So it's funny because I actually throw something that's very, very, very similar to a Stego just so I don't have to have touch on my approach shots.
Is it a koi?
It's a Baobab. It's actually a Stego
I don't.
top with
What is
a
that?
it's a above ground level disc,
Okay.
but I believe it's actually a Stego top with a Shaman bottom. So similar in concept, just no
All right.
glide. I find it useful, but it is funny sometimes too.
It's a brick.
It is a brick.
have the baobab or the stego instead of the polecat rounds.
Yeah, it would not go well. If you could card up with 3 celebrities, who would they be?
Do they need to play disc golf, or are we just going and having a good time?
Having a good time.
This is basically the have dinner with 3 people.
Yes.
I really like the way Michael Pollan writes. I
Okay.
feel like he's good at finding new source material, learning a lot about it, and then discussing it in like good detail in a thoughtful way. So Michael Pollan. Um, let's see. I want to hear from Terry Jones from Monty Python about his working process.
Hmm.
Um, he spent 30 years trying to make a movie about Don Quixote, and it came out a couple years ago. It was like weird. It had Adam Driver as the lead, and I saw it in theaters. I really liked it. But just like at some point, your development hell becomes its own Quixotic process, and I would be interested in hearing from him about that.
Okay.
Um, man, can I do a cuss on the podcast?
Sure.
Okay. So Paul Johnson, the former Georgia Tech football coach,
Hmm.
I really appreciated how like sincerely he didn't seem to care about what other people thought,
Hmm.
and how into him his players were. Like he wasn't a good recruiter because he was running a triple option, and he kind of just like had a "here I am, what do you think" attitude. I heard from I was listening to a podcast, and one of the editors said that he had the most ways of using the word bullshit that he'd ever heard. And although as an editor it was annoying to have to edit out, like he couldn't stop laughing while reading transcripts of interviews with him. So I'd like to school up on creative parts of speech and all that from Paul Johnson. As well as like one of my main tenets in like the growth of disc golf is the same as why I like college football. I don't really watch it, but I appreciate that there's a lot of different personalities. I appreciate that fan bases have their own unique quirks, that offenses and defenses like are much more cyclical and varied than they are in the NFL. I really like in disc golf when a player comes along who does something better than everybody else and wildly differently. Like the big germ forehand, who else is throwing like that? Um, I want a thumber guy to get to the top. Um,
I played with a
the
Chandler
thumber guy
Kramer.
at Chain Hawk Open. It was the most wild thing. I'd never seen a thumber flip up and over and then actually fly and then hit as a roller 400 feet later and continue. Like it was the
wild.
most incredible. Like at one point during the round, I was like, I really hate you because I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, like when you get some courses and they just make it too easy to do
Yeah,
that. So you were starting to say Chandler Kramer, right?
yeah,
Yeah, so somebody like Chandler Kramer is so good for disc golf because if if what if players all converge to like Paul Macbeth as the platonic ideal of this is how I throw a backhand, this is how I throw a forehand, and I'm going to do like a spinny glidey putt.
hmm
Like, sure we optimized it, but it's kind of boring. It's more disc golf is more exciting when there's different personalities in the way that people play, and like to go back to thinking about course design and requiring complex shots. it's more interesting when players are incentivized to learn how to throw those things. You know, the Conrad max effort hyzer flip release into like turnover at 425. That's really, really cool to watch. Um, but if the solution that, or if the easy solution is there, obviously he's just going to throw a hyzer like anybody else would.
Yeah.
So like I want to see course designers give players the opportunity to like show off their skills, and I want players to like figure out what makes their identity and do that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I very similar. I like the different personalities and everything like that. It definitely makes the sport a lot more interesting for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Final question. Are you able to discuss contract deal details with your sponsorship with Goop Bucket? And what is that
Oh,
relationship like?
yeah. Goop Bucket is ongoing. Right now we're at the end of the year, so I don't have a whole lot left in there. Like probably, I guess if I like was really in an emergency, Goop Bucket would come through for me. But right now I've got right now we're working on 2023, but I haven't had to dig into there too much because there's just not enough sunlight.
What is
That's
Goop Bucket? What is
Scroll back, man.
yeah, you
what
got it.
is
I
this? Oh my gosh.
here's the real story of Goop Bucket is that I don't I had sunscreen in a bottle in my car door and in like one of those cup holders, and I don't know if it broke or if it just got too hot and the like pressure built up and it opened the lid or something.
Okay.
But I like went to get sunscreen and there's just a whole bunch of sunscreen in the bottom of there and none in the bottle. So like
Goop
an
Bucket.
idiot, like an idiot, I just took a photo of that and turned it into a Goop Bucket sponsorship.
That's
It's like a 5 or 6 tweet thread. Like it became a whole thing.
But to return to that social media question, and the majority of things that I put online, like there's three categories. There's like self promotion, which is necessary, and there's like earnest thoughts, which take a long time to compose and get absolutely no response at all. Because that I don't know why. I wish those were the ones that got the most response because like I want to try to like think deliberately about the future of the sport. The things like 75% of the things that I put on Twitter and Instagram are me thinking to myself, "Hey, this would be funny. I'm going to tweet it." And like it being 38 seconds until I have put it online. Um, so all of my like tour map announcements on Instagram, uh, and things like Goop Bucket. I thought it would be funny, so I did it.
I
Yeah, it's always
appreciate
weird
that.
how like we've talked about that a lot though, that the stuff that you spend the most time on and the things that you really like think about and plan out, a lot of times they get the smallest reaction on social media, and the things that you're just kind of like meh, and that's the stuff that everybody wants to see. It's very strange.
Yeah, we could probably like build a huge social commentary there if we wanted to, but like in terms of like what we spend the most time on, like speaking from the perspective of someone who's now making disc golf my life, um, I don't think that it is appreciated nearly enough how much focused effort and practice has to go in. It's not enough to just like go outside and throw for 4 hours.
Yeah,
It's more like you have to go outside with a deliberate plan
yeah,
and like a recursive loop of, did this make me better? If so, repeat. If not, you need to go find something else.
do something else.
Um,
Yeah,
or like did this shot work? If so, throw it again exactly the same way until it's like completely ironed into your brain. Or
Yeah.
like figure out what part of the approach, run up, grip, angle didn't work and then figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, like when you see players play at tournaments, you are seeing the culmination of like hours and hours and hours of what should be mind-numbing boredom, but you have to like embrace and exult in that boredom, that like that routine of doing it. And like when I write things on Twitter or Instagram or other places like that don't get engagement, I can either get mad at that or I can say, wait a minute, I never really cared about the clicks and likes. I wrote that because it was important to me to say it. And if nothing else, I can go back to that later and say, huh, that's the way that I was conceptualizing this at that time. I put a
Yeah.
lot of thought into it. Does it still hold up? Or is there new information or new perspectives that I should consider now in addressing that same issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great way of looking at it. Well, you got anything else, Evan?
No, I don't. Fish, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Wanted to give you some time to promote what you got going on, shout outs, anything like that.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate you guys inviting me to be on. I hope that folks listen. Like we've gotten a pretty long car ride uh,
Right.
worth of a podcast now. Um, I'm continuing with Upper Park Disc Golf for 2023. I'm also partnering with Disc Golf Bra. You can use code FISH10 on their website. And I should say you can use the code Andrew10 on Upper Park's website. Their bags, the Shift, the Rebel, a couple others are my favorite bags that I've had, and I've been through 3 or 4 different styles of disc golf bag. So if you go to Disc Golf Bra or Upper Park and use those codes, that's a way that can go to help support my touring, as well as promoting businesses and media companies that are endemic to disc golf. And that's really important to me. I'm still working on my contract deals with primary sponsors for next year. But Discraft has been so good to me from 2017 to 2022. I still have a bunch of tour fundraisers from them from this year. You can either buy them directly from me if you find me in the wild, or on Daddy Disc Golf's website. Daddy Disc Golf is a local Maryland retailer. He's been helping fulfill orders for me while I've been on the road. Anyway, that's where I am. I'm not trying to like manipulate anybody about my contract status for next year. It's just I haven't signed anything yet and working on it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it. You coming on and spending some time with us. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks guys. I'd be glad to be back sometime in the future maybe.
Hesser, have we had anybody with that well thought of answers before?
I don't know, man. That he definitely has the analytical mind, and it's
Hmm.
really it's really cool to like hear him talk and hear his opinions on things that are feels like he really puts a lot of thought into a lot of different things and his responses. So it was really cool to hear that and get his opinions on a lot of different topics.
Yeah. I especially like the rapid fire round where he still is giving way deeper thought to dumb questions.
It was
But
good.
yeah, it was awesome. And
Zach
really good
Melton.
guy. Like he said, definitely go support him on daddydiscgolf.com. Uh get his tour discs, and it was great to have him on.
For sure.
Got anything else, Hesser?
No, it's incredible that we're able to talk to such cool different touring pros, and can't wait for the next one.
Definitely. Well, that wraps it up for today. You can find Fish on Instagram and on Twitter at Fish 58320, Dan on Instagram at dhesser, and me at Evan Amstutz DG. Remember to follow the pod on Instagram at Mediocre Disc Golf Pod and on Twitter at Mediocre DG Pod. If you'd like to support us, buy one of our shirts on mythicdiscgolf.com and listen to us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed the show, leave us 5 stars in a review. And if you didn't, still give us 5 stars and tell us why. We know we aren't perfect because we are mediocre. Have a good night.